And if you could do that consistently enough, things are really going to start shifting for you because you're telling the universe who you are, what happens to you in your life, and it creates that space. So definitely.
Hello, family. Welcome back to the Explore the Extraordinary podcast. My name's Betty, and today I'm joined by Shantana. And Shantana is a spiritual medium and channel and one of the co-founders of the Divine Channeling Academy. And I'm really excited for you to come on and your willingness to serve our community at IANDS. So I'm going to toss it right over to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Betty. That was amazing. Hi, my name is Shantana Telise. I'm like Betty had said, I'm a spiritual channel. Oh my goodness, I teach how to channel. I have been doing this for a really long time, and I was actually just thinking about the basis of this podcast and with near-death experience and stuff, and it got me thinking when I was a baby, like when I was first born, I was actually a few months premature, and I had a nurse that was trying to kill me. And so the doctor told my parents like I wouldn't make it through the night, all these things. And they actually say that when you have a near-death experience like that, it enhances your spiritual gifts. So like my entire life, my whole childhood, I was so psychic and I was always seeing shadows. I was always seeing dead people. Like they'd like stand over my bed. And when I was a kid, I actually, because of how psychic I was, I didn't like I thought I was evil because of how psychic I was and like things would happen, like doors would open and close, things would move around the house. My parents, my poor parents, they were tormented by what would follow me. And so I I never actually put like my birth to what how psychic I am until the last few years where I've actually like realized how a near-death experience really does enhance those abilities because it's like you're so close to that side, especially at birth, like when you're coming through that birth canal, you are so intuitive already because you haven't been, what is the word? Like you haven't been told to basically forget everything. Like you haven't been brainwashed or anything like that yet. So it's actually kind of interesting on how I find a lot of people that have gone through a lot of near-death experiences and have come so close to the veil where they actually remember like their past lives, remember other scenarios where it's like in on different timelines they've died. So it's kind of interesting to think about. But I had my daughter a few years ago. Like she's 7 now. And so when I had my daughter, that was when a psychic told me that she has all my same abilities, and me being so psychic and being so afraid of my gifts, I shut them out. And then when I had that psychic tell me that, I actually had to open back up. And that's what really got me on my healing journey, is because I was like, there's no way I am having my daughter grow up in that same kind of environment. And now she's always like, Mom, I'm not psychic. And yeah, I watch her all the time. And she's like super intuitive, picks up on things. Like she's like, oh, they feel this about me. They don't like me over this, or like it's been a real learning curve for even her because she is so psychic but doesn't quite grasp it. And so she doesn't think she is because it's so natural. And she doesn't see all the dark stuff that I used to see when I was a kid because, like now that I feel like the spiritual community has evolved so much that we know how to, I don't know, protect and ground and like we're so much more spiritually aware, even so much that are like not fully advanced, like there's so much more protection that we do, and it definitely does make a difference. So I notice it makes a difference in how I raise my daughter nowadays versus how I grew up. It's definitely something that I'm glad that I got to change. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. No, yeah, that's great. Let's go off of that a little bit. I love when I get to talk to people who are conscious and aware, and they're also parents. So, do you feel like I obviously I heard you say that you incorporate a lot of, your own abilities sort of into your life now. And now you're kind of out of this spiritual closet. You didn't just turn your gifts back on to prepare your daughter for her gifts, but you also have turned on your gifts all the way up to 11, and you're doing a lot in the community. So maybe do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I shut my gifts off a few years ago. So like I had a situation because I'm a channel. Like from the time I was 2, my dad told me like I would just black out and be gone. And so there was a lot of fear around it and then having to learn to navigate that. And when I did shut my gifts off, I was actually in a relationship that was not for my highest good, but I actually shut it off for him because I remember talking to these, I don't know what they were, in the basement, and I was like so trancy that I kind of like left my body and I was having a conversation, and I think something came in and actually took over because he said I hit him, and I don't remember this at all. And so that led me to shutting everything off. And my daughter was the driving force for me fully, like to like have something better. But once I started with Reiki, like that was kind of where it began for me. I started getting healing sessions. I started learning about grounding, about taking care of your energy, about all this stuff. And it was just like, oh, and it was such a natural ability. And the things that I find is if you focus on it so hard, you will block it out yourself. And that's like the number one thing that people come and they're like, well, I don't have gifts, or I don't this, or I used to be able to access them and now I don't. But it really inspired me going through my own journey and having to learn and get in touch with my own psychic abilities and really get in touch with myself. And that really helped me because like I wanted to help people and I didn't even realize that was something that I wanted when it happened. But when you're soul aligned, like when your spirit, when you really surrender to the universe, seriously, like they will rip your life apart if you are not in alignment. And that's what happened to me. Like I was in this relationship and it was like everything went wrong. Like we were together for a few years and all of a sudden everything went wrong. I had to move back home. I was pregnant with my kid and it was like my whole life fell apart. And then it fell together. And that is so inspiring to me because I love watching people that are in these, like, not great situations and they're just like struggling, they want something, or they're supposed to be doing something and they're completely out of alignment and they come to me and they're like, well, why is nothing working? I love getting to help people, and that's why I teach how to channel, is because when you really step into that alignment, like that soul and spirit alignment, I feel like there's really nothing more fulfilling than getting to create whatever it is that you're here to create. Like it's like a new life, honestly. And you go through that death experience because you're letting go of that old version of you and embodying somebody new. So it's like, I don't know, there's something so gratifying about death. I know that sounds so bad.
I love it. So maybe I love that you're able to assist people in tapping into their gifts. And I'm wondering if maybe you could share just a little bit with our audience. Does everybody have access to channeling, to spiritual gifts? Can you share a little bit about the process of coming into that gift?
Yeah, of course. So the process is actually really simple. You have everything inside of you already. And I feel like most people want to search outside of them because they're like, oh, it's outside of me. But when you actually look inside of you, it's definitely a different experience because you have all those codes in your DNA, in your cells, everything. And so when you go through stages of activations, like everyone has psychic abilities, they're just dormant. And some people have like a psychic ability, like honestly, the most common I find is like clairaudience, clairvoyance, and then they always say like being an empath. I think it's clairsentience. And so everyone has them. It's just a lot of people that actually go through trauma tend to have to use those abilities a lot more because they have to become super aware of their environment. So it's a lot easier for people like that to come into them. But for most people, even though it like they're always like, well, I'm not psychic. Yes, you are. Even if you're not meant to get into it in this lifetime, it's still in your DNA, it's still in your cells. So All you have, honestly, it's just like you go through a period of activations, and the more you heal and the more you get in tune with yourself, the easier it is to access it within you. And I'm big on activations just because I work with spirit. So it's like that's one of the biggest ways that I bring it through, like out in people, like when we teach it, is all these activations, because you can pull different gifts from different lifetimes. You can pull it from different timelines. Like there's different versions of you that you can integrate into your now, which will bring out those psychic abilities, which in turn, like, because like even though like there is a difference between being a psychic versus being a channel. So doing psychic readings, it's like you're tuning into someone's energy, you're learning how to read that, versus being a channel, you're working with higher dimensional beings like angels, and they're coming through and they're giving you the guidance, they're giving you all that. And like if you're trance channeling, they're coming through and stepping into you, right? And they're speaking through you. Regardless, you still have to use your psychic abilities. It doesn't matter which way you do it. So when they can get activated, you, I don't know how to put that. Basically, then the more it's like riding a bike. You got to start working with them. You got to practice. You got to do the steps, and then it kind of integrates in a lot smoother. We could do some activations. I love channeling.
I love that. So, how do you trust that you're actually channeling something benevolent, like an angel, like you're describing? Or how do you know if it's you or if it's something divine?
So there's this thing, it's called the Law of Trinity, and I follow this, I teach this. And what you do is you have to actually ask. So like every being in the universe, whether it's good or bad, there are specific universal laws that they have to follow. So when you follow the Law of Trinity, you actually ask something 3 times if it's serving the light. And by that third time, it has to say yes or no. And honestly, out of all the years that I've been channeling, I think there was only one time where I was channeling, well, that I was, being a conscious channel, knowing what I was doing. But there was only one time that I've channeled with something darker, or not channeled with it, but had something darker come through, just because I was in a really low state, like you just, sometimes those days happen, and then you just stop the channel instantly, and then you have to work on clearing yourself, clearing your space, restarting, bringing your vibration up. And what people don't realize is if you eat a lot of junk food, it actually brings your vibration down, so you're more likely to get that kind of stuff until you're very secure in your own self, like in your own channel. But everything, when I go to channel with like a being, so they'll come to me, they'll bring me like a program or a course. When I'm channeling with them, I'm like, okay, what is your name? And they have to clearly say it. All right, and then I'm like, are you serving the light? And I ask them 3 times, are you serving the light? Are you serving the light? Then they respond, and then I can say, okay, yes, I want to channel with you, or no, I don't want to channel with you. And even with someone's spiritual guides, I always ask them, like when I'm working with someone's team or even my own, I only want guides that are serving the light to come in and work with me, because sometimes you do get negative beings or negative entities that will come through and try and pretend to be a spirit guide, and they'll give you guidance. And so that's something that you want to be consciously aware of. So the one thing I always say is like, okay, like I call in my team, because spirit guides have to follow so many laws. So they have to have your permission to actually interfere in your life. Whereas like your higher self is a higher version of you. So your higher self is always being a part of your life. Like it's always giving you guidance, versus a spirit guide. So an angel's like you have to ask them, okay, like leave me a sign or help me with this situation. And that whoever you have working with you in that area of your life is going to step forward and help you shift. And you might notice like a huge change. You might notice like you're just getting told different directions. It all depends. You can specifically ask for signs, like if you ask an angel for a feather, like things like that. Everyone kind of gets like the number synchronicities, and it really confuses people because they're like, okay, what does this mean? And then it just keeps happening. And a lot of times it's just like your guide's telling you, hey, like we're here, but call, like ask for help. Like it's just like you're going to pray to God or to the universe, however you do that. Your guides want you to ask them. So I would say like Bring into my life whatever's for my highest good. Please remove from my life whatever's not. And then that's me surrendering and getting out of my own way, and then them being able to come in and help.
That's really helpful. Thank you for that.
Welcome.
I think that the idea of spiritual surrender, those are kind of vague, the prayers that you just said, like highest good, don't steer me away from anything that's not for my highest good. And you just allow the universe to surprise you with whatever it is that it wants to unfold. So I'm wondering if maybe you can share about any profound spiritual experiences that really stick out for you in your mind that you feel maybe could be useful to somebody listening.
Um, you know what? Actually, with Goddess Athena, a few years ago, I was in a relationship that was not healthy, and I didn't even realize how miserable I was. I always laugh because I'm like, oh, I was awful. And I was on my spiritual journey. I was learning how to channel, like that's kind of what I focused my attention on. My life actually was falling apart. It was during COVID. I lost my job because I was in healthcare. And then one day I was told that you need to pack. And I was like, okay. And I was piecing together how miserable I was because I was talking to my aunt. And then one day my guys just came up to me. It was Goddess Athena. And she just said, like, it's time for you to pack. And I called my aunt. I was like, look, I know you told me that I need to wait. I need to take things slow, like make sure I had, because we owned a house together. There was so many steps. And I was like, but I'm being told. And she's like, well, I guess you just trust that. And so I did. I started packing. And then my ex came home, and I was gonna go pick up my daughter. And we walked to the school because it was just down the street. And I was like, I'm leaving. And he was just like, what do you mean? Like, where are you going? And I was like, no, no, I'm leaving you. And that was a bit of a shock to like everybody because I had told only one person. And so I had finished, I spent a few days packing, and that was it. I I was told to heal my relationship with my mom and reach out to her. And so I did. And she's like, well, you sound like you're really stuck. So if you need somewhere to go, like you can come live with me for however long it takes. And this is like, I've never had a relationship with my mom. So I was like, thank you. Like this means a lot. And I moved in with her. And then I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but I'm going to start looking for somewhere to live. Like, I guess I'll figure it out. And I'm not even kidding. Like, it was like everything worked out so smoothly. Like, I left. We got my aunt, she does some legal stuff. So she helped with the house. We got that all worked out. Like, every process, like, it was in a span of 1 week where it was just like from the day I told him that I was moving, everything worked itself out in a span of a week. And then I was driving to go stay at my mom because she was like an hour, 45 minutes, an hour away. And on my way there, my team had said to me, they're like, we have a home for you. And I was like, okay. And so I only stayed with my mom for 11 days. That was it. And I got a phone call, and they were like, hey, would you move here? We have this house for you. You can get back on your feet, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yes, I will. And it was just like it was in that span of 11 days. And all of a sudden I was moved here, and it was so fast. And then right after I got settled here, I took a course, and I actually channeled through my first like actual fully channeled course with Goddess Athena. So it was really funny because she just took me through this whole process just to be like, okay, now create this.
That's incredible. I love stories like that. Those are my favorite. So why do you think that, and I'm just playing like the dual advocate right now. I believe in miracles. I know that these things can happen to us. I'm a witness to it myself, but why do you think that these experiences happen to some people and not others? Like, why do you think that you were given this gift of swiftness and everything falling together exactly how it was supposed to, but other people experience years of struggle or unrest?
See, I've actually had both, where being where I'm at, I kept getting in my own way. And I think that is the one thing, is because people are like, well, I want it. And then but they want to control how it happens. They want to control every single step of the way. And they're, instead of stepping back and actually letting the universe and your guides like move things and let those miracles happen, because I've done it too. Like I asked myself, I was like, how did this happen so smoothly? And then for a year when I was here, it was like it didn't seem to matter what I did. I just struggled and I would create and I was like nothing took off, nothing worked for me. And I was like, what is happening? And it was because I couldn't step out of my own way. And it wasn't until I actually learned how to surrender. And I noticed this last year, like 2024, it has been like an insane amount of surrendering that I've done. And that's been my biggest lesson. And that's what I noticed that people don't do is they come to me too and they're like, well, this isn't happening. Why is this not happening? Like, what's wrong with me? And it's like, well, have you actually created any space for the universe to, make a difference? And even I've noticed we want to have a specific thing. And like, okay, so like for example, like personally, I know it's like TMI, but like personally, I've wanted to be like in a good, healthy relationship. Like I'm ready for someone to open up. And I went to a friend of mine that is a psychic, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, why is nothing happening here? Because I don't understand. And he said to me, he's like, well, your business is so important right now that this can't happen because your focus has to stay on your business and what you're growing. So even though you want it, it's not the right time yet. So that is another factor of what we have to allow. Like it just is like, okay, well, I guess now I have to surrender to that and trust that my team knows that the right wave of things that is meant to happen is going to happen. And so it's control and surrender.
Yeah, I really love that. Thank you for that reflection. Do you think that things are pre-planned in our lives here?
Yes. I too like if you think about it, so there's a lot of obstacles that play into it. So you have your contracts that you agree to, like how people are in poverty or, they're struggling. There's all these contracts that you agreed to, but those are to help you, better yourself. And so you have those, but it doesn't mean they have to last your entire life. How fast are you learning that lesson? Like if you're learning that lesson and it took you, say, a few months or a year, you don't want to keep learning the lesson, like it's done. So you want to make sure that that's all cleared out. You've cleared those contracts, you've cleared those karmic cycles. And then there's also like timeline jumping. If you're choosing, this is one of my favorite works to do is timeline jumping, because if you're choosing a lower timeline where you continue to struggle or things continue to be hard, then you need to shift up so that you can actually bring in things a lot faster or better or and more in alignment with you. So you do agree to it, but it doesn't mean it's one specific structure and that's it. Like that's what you're stuck on. You can change things because you grow, you learn every day. And it all kind of plays into how you do that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I see in lots of these spiritual podcasts, people are like, well, I guess I was just destined to live a life of depression and anger and, just like all of these really lack emotions. But I love what you just shared. You're not bound to struggle. I believe that we're all meant to overcome tons of different challenges in life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you for that. So yeah, I want to give you some space to maybe share about how people can get a hold of you and what it is that you're creating inside of your own community and what kind of people it appeals to.
So my website is shantanatelisehealing.com. That is one of the best ways that you can work with me, get a hold of me, because my email's on there. My email is shantana@shantanatelisehealing.com, so which is on my website. I have a lot of little free gifts on my website, so I do recommend going there. And what am I creating in my community? Like honestly, right now, this last few months, there's been so many events that I've been doing. Like right now, I'm about to host a summit. Like we go live in a couple days. So if you want to learn, that is probably one of the best ways that you can do it, because we're talking all about channeling and teaching people how to work with their gifts is kind of my biggest thing. and bringing them out of that life of struggle, because one of my favorite topics is really creation. Like, what are you creating for your own personal reality? And so that is something that I dive into quite a bit. I do have a Facebook group. It's Path to Prosperity, and it kind of like runs itself. There's lots of people, amazing people in there, lots of spiritual people. Um, but yeah, one of my honestly, I feel like the summit is probably a really good one to come watch. And Betty, you're on it. And so it's going to be really awesome. And you can learn a lot. Plus, there's the live days, and you get to come on the 21st or is it 20? Yeah, 21st and 22nd of August, and come watch. The speakers teach live, and you get to know them. Plus, there's a lot of healing, a lot of activations, a lot of free gifts. So there's definitely a lot going on, and I do a lot of psychic events as well. So right now that's kind of been my focus.
That's beautiful. What is your process of finding people to collaborate with, finding other spiritual experiencers or spiritual people?
Um, so like I got into summits because I don't know if you know her, Adrienne Blackwell. Yeah, Spirit brought us together, and it was actually really ironic. Like, again, another miracle. It was back when I was like needing somebody to help me, and she joined my group, and she's like, Shantana, I never joined your group. Like, I didn't, and I wasn't even going to accept her in because she didn't have a profile picture. I've never told her that. And so I was like, oh, because yeah, I always watch for like scams and stuff. And so I was like, but a few days later, I was like, oh, whatever. So she joined my group, and then I go through and I add people as friends. And I was like, so I added her, and she doesn't usually accept people either. And she accepted me, and there was something there where Spirit was like, no, you have to connect. And we connected. And that's who's helped me do summits. Like, she's definitely helped me grow a lot. So it's been actually through working with her. She got me connected with quite a few people to start like my last summit. And now I'm in love with it. So I just went through and I've looked at different summits, different places, and found different speakers, plus people refer. And so that's kind of how it's grown. And now I have a few people that are like, oh, you have to meet this person. You have to meet this person. So a lot of new introductions is just through meeting people.
I love that. And, I love how you also shared that spirit can lead people to each other for a purpose of creating something bigger than ourselves and being of service to each other and humanity. I think that that's really beautiful, just to be aware that, maybe spirit is leading you in the right direction. So, can you share a little bit about discernment as well? Have you ever come into a situation where you thought spirit was leading you to something for the highest good, but it was actually something that made you fall flat on your face or was like not a good experience?
I feel like no. Like, I feel like anytime that I have really like had those moments where I've fallen flat on my face and I've hit rock bottom, like, I have blamed Spirit. Like, I've gotten so mad. Like, I have cursed out and broke down and cried. But I always find, like, in those moments where you're falling flat on your face, like, I love them now, because that's where the transformation is. That's when you're finally surrendering. But it's usually me not listening and me going, no, like, this is how it has to happen, and trying to control those steps. That's usually when I I fall flat on my face, because I'm not actually listening. So no, not really. But I use a lot of discernment in channeling, just because you have to know what beings you're working with and if something feels of the highest light. And you can have, because I've worked with people who've actually had like negative guides on their teams, and then clearing out those contracts, or even down the ancestral lineage. Like, there's a lot that needs to be kind of gone through and carefully, so that you can pull out those, I guess, counteractive energies towards your highest good.
That's really helpful. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm also curious, what do your friends and family think about the fact that you're so loud about your spiritual gifts and you're living this very spirit-led life?
Um, I am pretty fortunate. Like I grew up in a very spiritual background. Like my grandpa, he was a body balancer. So like that's more of the physical, but because you're working a lot with the energy as well, I there was a lot growing up that I got to experience, even though I never really truly knew what it was. Now as an adult, I'm like, oh wow, I was so blessed because it was such an open thing. But because I came from a Mormon town, my parents, I loved them dearly, but it was like that back and forth of, oh yeah, you can be so open about it. Oh no, never mind, it's bad. It was a freaking roller coaster all the time. And I just have learned that so like my dad is number 12. Um, so my aunts, like my one aunt does Reiki, like they're quite open to it. So I'm pretty fortunate in that aspect where I can go to them and be like, okay, or like when I'm getting offered different deals, like I tell my one aunt and then usually my other aunts are all like, congratulations, or, like they're very supportive. So in that regards, I'm actually very lucky. It's in my parents' wise is where it's like, I'm a lot more loud about it, and like I know it's so rude to say, but I know my one of my parents would like me to just shut it down and not do it because it was always, oh, you'll lose your mind. I know this person, they lost their mind. And it's like, no, like you have respect for the energy. And so I was able to, even though that was a thing and that support system wasn't quite great, I have a lot of other support.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, is recognizing instead of focusing on where I don't have support, I can focus on where I do have support and I can focus my energy there because I can pick apart a bunch of things that I don't think look right in my life. But if I can focus my energy on what is working, I can probably create more things that are working.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed chatting with you today. I just want to give you some space to share anything else that you feel called to share right now before we wrap up.
Can we do a light language healing? Like a transmission? Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. I'm just gonna call in whoever's watching this. I'm gonna call in your guides and just see what they want to all shift. Okay. What the audience needs. Here we go. Okay. Paniantara sira shengadira alarantara kurra dera sekandara. Ayo lelandra kia siano kundre eshukotir anti alara kotore atundra sikachkota daira kurra te. Ayo norera alala sikandare atir kurrota dera kurrendare asiandra katara katara kata. Ayo lelandra kia siu shalandra kia atara. Hai la la handore asian digo shikote ati andare asian doroto ratate. Hai o sho ase kanara ati andare kura. Ai adore la landero asian doroto roti arandara katara 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 katara. Uy, ati kotara. Hai asian kotara. Ai la tate ancora atuta andare asia shunki. Ai la kuandera sia shokatara atera. Hiasiando e sia shikia andara siandare kure atata kandare odora tera ki andarasa. Ashi atikandara ayash alter otsikiandaro iaro otarin kutarakia. Ay, atore asiengotera asiengore asiangore katenda rotata. Ay, andere asiengote ashia. Ay, asiengosh alara si katiandore. Ay, anki ala si ashika anda aler osaya rakotatakate. Ay, ora. Ay, orandera harandure asi andare kia. Ora salanandra sia la languria to yashikate la rande. Hayante haisinko asilelinko ratera. Ay, sakata. Ay, kotera atiano kotera asin kontina kotera la yasha shikotekechi. Ay, ki asta andore essa la ratera. Ay, Sí, kata. Ay, yondo asyanda yotote. Yo sian chukate, yo si ashikota andara katora. Siara kotara siandara yashia. Alla tota katata kora sinkush. Ay, stiku, chikotia senkotera. Alla do asiandore eshi. Kanta da katora. Ya totera katara katara kato. Ah, rakatata katera kotara katera. Dedo si ancora io si potera katera. Andorosio loro katara katua atsukota. Ora. Katora sekete ati andore ashota. Go. Alena kayo andore asi andore asi alla la kate alla kate chiki andare kiti kata. Hai andare ki andore si atara. Hai kakotera asi ashukotera dara dara dara. Io stia kotera shukotera alla landara koti alla rangante tera atata. Hai kondara siaro kote. Ay, siara kotera, 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 kotera. Ay, ontendere. Yesi asiandore antaya da kotera alarasi. Ay, si, ay, asi, ay, asi, ay, asi, ay, asi, ay, asi, ay, asi, ay, asi. Just clear cleansing and transmuting all that no longer serves them. Those final chords. Here we go. A lot of soul fragments scattered for this group. It's like the energy is just so pulled away that they just gotta bring it back, be in your body, be in your own energy. Lots of different things cutting, like attaching in and draining those energies. So we're just clearing that out. There we go. Grounding out that energy. Making sure you're in the present, in that state of being able to receive blessings and miracles into your life. It's hard to receive when you're everywhere, when your soul is scattered, and your energy is scattered. There we go. Okay. We're just going to do a download of it being safe to receive. So I'm being told this group needs. It's like you get to surrender and be in that receiving mode and just enjoy it when it happens and just allowing more and more in. I've unlocked something big. There we go. Big shift there. Just watch like the group's energy just expand big time. Good. There we go. Okay. Just ending this off. Everything is grounded, connected, completed. There we go. Lots of shifts happening now, like a relief. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you for that. Can you explain a little bit about what that process feels like for you to, like, what's happening with the hand movements? Can you explain any of it? I know it's probably hard to explain, but
So when you do light language, your hands automatically start moving because you're moving energy. And I can't say it happens for everybody because I have some people that can only write light language or like it is channeled through differently. But for me, it's we're speaking it, and as they're light language is my favorite because you can have like 10 different people listen to the same recording and everybody's going to get a different healing versus based on what it is they need. So it is one of my favorite ways to channel. And then the hands are just moving the energy. But what I was being shown, because like I work with all my psychic senses as I do it, what I was being shown is like multiple chords going off and like the energy being drained out. And then I'm seeing all these little fragments of the soul, and it's like they're spread out among multiple timelines and past lives. And so it's just like, and even in this life, like lots of pain, lots of trauma. So there, it's like all these little fragments are just spread out everywhere, and it's like they're being called back. And so I'm watching like this pillar down your central channel, and it's like all these pieces are being called back and reintegrating in and being healed as they reintegrate in. And but there was a few chords at the base, like mainly in the root, because it's very foundational. And for this group, it's just like a lot of fear. There was a, for some, not all, but not a very strong foundation, not a very strong support system. So like that you just didn't want to let go of those traumas that kind of keep you in that place because it's safe. But that's why they wanted to integrate light codes down the nervous system of being safe and being it's safe to receive so that you can actually embrace those blessings and miracles. But as for like what I say, it's more of what I'm being shown and what they tell me that the group needs. And because light language is not something that's like you're not like supposed to be deciphering it, it's frequency. So it's a spoken frequency so that that's why it's able to heal. It's not getting, and the ego's not getting involved, nothing is getting involved when doing it.
oh, that makes so much sense. I've never heard that before. But yeah, like you're not processing what the words mean or your connotation or your interpretation of a word or whatever meaning it has. So that actually makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for sharing your gift with us. I had like all of this pain in my back before we started recording, and it went away when you were doing the light language. So I really appreciate that. And
Welcome.
yeah, I'm super grateful for this space together today. Again, are there any parting words that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I feel like my favorite is think about if you're really struggling, think about what it is that you can create and create a new version of you instead of trying to manifest or get frustrated because blessings and things aren't coming into your life. Like, think about that version of you and what that version of you now gets to receive. So, sit down, write it out, and create that and allow that to be. And then all you got to do is just every day when you wake up, today I'm showing up as blah, 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 and be that person that receives those miracles. And if you could do that consistently enough, things are really going to start shifting for you because you're telling the universe who you are, what happens to you in your life, and it creates that space. So definitely recommend creating that new version and letting go of that past version that got you to this point and having gratitude for that past version.
Beautiful. Ah, thank you so much. So grateful for you. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.